Hello, everybody. This is Sculpture 2 project, the Retablo. So this is a project that has a history in Platteville. When I was hired here, the art teacher before me, Mr. Swales, some of you guys might remember him. I don't think anybody now at this point would have had him as an art teacher, but you might have had like an older brother or older sister might have had him, and he was a really, really cool guy. When I was hired, one of the questions I asked him, and I knew him before this before I even took the position, I asked him very pointedly if there was one project that you would like to see continued at PHS, what would it be? He said this one. So this one is kind of in memory of the legacy that Mr. Swales had at PHS. This is the one he really enjoyed, and I never heard about him. I think I've definitely have seen some, and you might have seen some yourself. But what a retubolo is, and you'll watch from retubolo to assemblage, and I think I'd give a little explanation on it. Is in the past, it's a historical. It's definitely historical, but it's a religious artifact that when somebody and I believe this was only Christian churches, they when they left the church because they had to go on a voyage across seas, or they knew they were going to go, away from the church that they normally go to and pray at. A retubolo ended up being some sort of altar that they would open up, and like the Virgin Mary would be there, kind of thing, and then they would just like they were in church, and they would kneel down and they would pray, towards that because that was like their church. That was helped that to help define a very large part of who they were. Now, like anything else, the other cultures kind of took it and they adapted it, and it just kind of grew from there. So we're going to create a retubolo. Now you can see by looking at this, you can kind of see like on the worksheet it has that like the Day of the Dead thing going. I can't quite see what's going on over there, but it has a lot to do with like a Mexican or a Spanish kind of a culture is where it was started from. But regardless, you gotta think about your culture because I want this retubolo to be kind of in dedication to you or to something about you or about your life, about your passions, about whatever you want to kind of think about in terms of like a theme. I do want to try to make sure that it's tied to you in some sense. To help guide you in that, I want you to look at this next page where it says Retubolo themes. So, what are some themes you could work with? So, think of movies. Like I'm just thinking of Lord of the Rings and how awesome that would be to create a a Retubolo of Lord of the Rings. Think of games. Maybe your family is a die-hard Monopoly, family, where there are fights, that have broken out, and your aunt from one side and your uncle from the other side still have not to this day have talked because of a situation with a Monopoly game, or something. So that would be kind of fun. Your culture is such a broad term, and sometimes people get hung up on it, but it is literally about what you listen to, what you play, how you talk, what things you have hanging up in your room, what foods you eat, the language you speak, books you read. There are so many different things that are about that. Then you can think about your past. Maybe there was a fantastic, vacation you went on that you could build this retubolo in, and you actually have some seashells, that you could incorporate into this. Think about your future. Think about where you might want to be. Think about crazy future stuff like aliens and stuff like that. And then you also have this other column that, whatever doesn't fit these other ones, you can kind of throw in there. So it says come up with 2 or 3 ideas in each category. Because when I do this, I'm really trying to get you to think like an artist and as a designer. And in both of those situations, they know there are many solutions to one problem. So I don't want you getting hung up and saying, I am going to do a Twilight theme, Retubolo, and it is going to be awesome. Okay. You might end up still doing that, but I want you to still play around with the thoughts in terms of trying to build on lots of different ideas, because you might run into something that you never even thought, and then all of a sudden that is better than Twilight, or whatever's kind of going on. So come up with an idea, and share that with me so I know what you're talking about. Looks like I have a typo right there. Need a little more parentheses. Once that idea is shared, so you're gonna whittle this down to just one thing. Share that with me. I'll probably say yes, run with it. Go to the next step. The next step is this down here. And understanding that after you do this, if you all of a sudden just kind of lost interest, like, no, this isn't going to work, pick something else. You should have, 3, 6, 12, 15, 18, 21. You should have about 21 ideas. No, that's not right. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. See, I can do math. You should have about 18 ideas up there because I said 2 to 3. I'm just thinking 3. So you can go back up there, come up with something else. Because on this, it says list 5 details in each category. 5, when you do this Retablo, as you can see the examples and when you watch that video, there are definitely sculptural elements in this where you might have to make something out of like a sculpted clay. You might have to find things outside that you'd have to bring inside. You might have to tear apart a toy that you might have at your house. You might have to take a mug that you bought and it might already have a chip in it that you might mind breaking and trying to incorporate. You have to find 5 separate things that you could justify as a sculptural element. Even the handle on the door that you apply onto this could be a sculptural element. You have that box that you're creating this out of that you'll see later on in another design, but you can see how this is. It's always this box-like shape. Is that ours is just this. You could come up with something that has that top part on ours. Ours are usually kind of flat, and that could be a sculptural. Maybe you'll end up sculpting some kind of a rooster, on there, and your inside is just a barn because of your culture. You are farmers, and this is in honor of that tradition. Okay, so there's an idea right there. I'm going to slide down. Now you also have painting that you have to do, and the last one is a door design or some other unique idea to enhance your Retablo. So painting is how you're dealing with like the back, the sides. That's the back is one. The sides could be something completely different. The door design can be both sculptural and painting. You might end up cutting the door a little bit, but you can use a design on the door as a painting element, but you can't use that again in the next column. You have the outside, of your Retablo that you might want to think about in terms of how you could play around with that. You might have a sculptural element in there that you want to paint. So you should be able to find 5 details you can bring in. Last one, again, is your door designs. I talk about how your doors will be completely shut, but if you want to cut out a circle, if you want to cut out like a moon shape, if you want to come out with something else that you want to work with, we have the tools, especially in the shops, to be able to do some of that stuff, like our scroll saw, that we can show you how to use, and then you can actually do it for your project. Okay. Or some unique idea I didn't think about. Maybe you want to incorporate battery operated lights, Christmas lights. That'd be cool. Maybe you want to have some sort of a music box element in there. So when you open it up, it plays music. If you can figure that out. Maybe you have that top part. We don't have that on ours. That could be something that you feel would really finish off your project. So there's lots of things that you can do. It's up to you to figure out what those are and how they relate to you and your subjects that you kind of came up with. Okay. What am I grading on? This idea of coming up with an idea is 10 points, or it's 20% of your grade, because you got to start off with a good idea to have a good product. Okay. That's super important. Next part, extreme detail in the sculpture, 15 points. 30% of your grade is that. Okay. And then extreme detail in the painting is, again, 15 points or 30%. Now, I also just noticed that my math is right. It is right. No, it's not. It's not right. I have 40 points on there. That can't be right. So well built, it has to be taken down to 5. Yours, because this is yours might not have that. Might say 10, but it's 5. So another 5 points is just well built. Is the hinges really bad and it doesn't attach well? It's just well built, and that's just one of the things you just got to get her done. Other than that, um, go through these ideas. Send me your theme with a general idea of what you're thinking about. If I think, yeah, that I think you're on the right track, then come down here and do that part. Other than that, look it up, watch that video, so you know what you're kind of a little bit about the history of it. Type in Retablo online and see lots of things you could do. It'll give you some inspiration. Good luck on the project. Let me know if you have any questions.